Before I start with this amazing video, oh my God, this hair is going everywhere. God, please bring me my braids back. But before I start anything, as always, hook 'em. Here we are. We're in a bye week. Thank goodness for a bye week. Thank goodness that my brain can relax. Listen, it is what it is. I'm not even going to edit that out. Thank goodness that we are on a bye week and that my brain can relax and that I can just enjoy a weekend of football. I did want to make this video because I have spent some time trying to figure out, like, where's this Texas team at? What are we doing? What are some things that I'm thinking? What are some things I'm hoping for this bye week? And it led me down some pretty interesting paths because I'm kind of excited to see where this team is headed. Like, I don't really know how this is going to go. I don't really know how these next 4 games are going to play out, but I will be honest and say I'm very excited to see how they play out. And why I'm here, Texas just got another penalty for holding on the offensive line. Like, seems normal, right? Like, we're on a bye week, holding offensive line, it just makes sense. But in all reality, let me get into the other side of this video and tell you all the things you want to know about Texas football. Yes, I expect Texas to be out there on the recruiting trail and closing recruits and doing all those things. I will also be a little honest and say I'm a little privileged in the fact that I know Texas is on the trail trying to close recruits. I know Sark is out there visiting people. I know we're offering tons of money. I know we're throwing everything we can to land these people. So my concern with Texas really isn't about landing the recruits at this point, because I think our trajectory has shown that we can do that. So that is not my concern for Texas. My concern for Texas is really looking at this team and analyzing and figuring out where we're at right now. So what I did is I took some time to really think about some things that I'm concerned about. I rewatched all of my old videos because for some reason I like doing that. And I'm trying to see if I can find specific themes within those videos that I can talk about in this bye week, because it was different than I did in the other bye week. The other bye week I graded myself. If I think about it, I'll put that video up here. This video though, I wanted to give some more context for the next 4 games, because something that actually was interesting for me to see in my video that I previewed the season, where I had a too early prediction, I actually predicted the Georgia-Oklahoma game fiasco happening. I'm gonna play that video here so that I can talk about why I'm talking about that video here in a second. The highlight of the season, maybe, will be Georgia rolling into Austin. I think that this game is interesting to me because I think this game is really going to depend on what happens in the Oklahoma game. So if we come out in the Oklahoma game and we lose and we don't play well, I actually like our chances better at beating Georgia in that scenario, as opposed to going in, dominating Oklahoma, then playing Georgia at home makes me nervous. As you can tell, I knew this team. Like, I had them pegged, and I knew that if they went in there and played Oklahoma like they did, it made me worried, it made me concerned. So nothing that has happened up to this point has surprised me. I had us being 7-1 at the bye week. I actually knew that Vandy was going to be a tough game. I called that out. I actually have Kentucky and Arkansas being hard games as we continue to move forward, because they're on the road and just because of other factors on this team. So in a lot of ways, this season is going exactly how I thought it would go, and in a weird way, exactly how I needed it to go, so that I could see who this Texas team and what I thought about this Texas team. The 2 things that I didn't realize were going to be a thing that I now realize are coming up as the season goes on is this Texas offense is actually missing CJ Baxter more than I thought they would. And I didn't realize why this offense wasn't quite looking like I thought it was going to look, and why some things have happened. And I've realized that it is because we are basically manufacturing, is that the right word? We are basically manufacturing a run game. Our running back that was supposed to be our running back this year got hurt, and he's out. And if you watch this Texas team, or if you watch Texas for the past 2 years, the thing that they have been able to depend on is a run game, because they've had a solid running back. For example, Bijan Robinson, solid running back. He was solid. He was stable. He led us where we needed to go. Jonathan Brooks, stable, goes down with the ACL. We have Baxter. So if you look at the history of Texas in this offense, one thing that I have realized now that I've been able to take a breath and really go back through some old things that I was saying and go back through some of my notes. My notes are crazy, but go back through some of my notes, is the running back being injured at the beginning of the season, or really in training camp, I think is showing up and is impacting this team and their ability to run the ball. I think when you lose your ability to run the ball, it impacts the way that you call plays. Now, here's the thing where it gets interesting. I think Sark has started doing this running back by committee. In some of my videos, I have stated that we are now a running back by committee. And I think that that's great because we have options at running back. And by no means am I saying our offensive struggles are because of our running back, because it's not necessarily their fault. But I do think some of our offensive struggles is because we're missing CJ Baxter. And the truth is we can't replace him. And so we're trying to plug and play, and we're trying to use different running backs for different things. But we don't have our all-purpose back available. He's just not here. He's injured. And so we're trying to kind of figure out this run game. The second thing I've realized too is this offensive line has been figured out in a way, and they're not adjusting. And so when your offensive line isn't adjusting to what they're seeing, you're already down a running back. So that's already kind of like, it leaves a lot of things to be desired. Now, I know people want to blame Ewers because you see the tip balls and things like that. If we're going to blame quarterbacks for interceptions because the balls get tips, I mean, it is what it is. If you look at how Ewers was graded, he was graded out really well. And to be honest with you, I think a lot of people would rather have Quinn Ewers' performance. If they could plug and play that on their teams, they would love to have that. So I want us to be careful of how we're looking at Quinn, because sometimes things just aren't your fault. It just happens. They tipped the ball. It is what it is. Now, if he would have thrown it right to the receiver and it would have hit him right in his hands or hit them right in the number, great. But if you go back and look at his interceptions from the last game against Vandy, all of those tip balls, the guy was actually wide open. Somebody just happened to get in the passing lane and tip the ball. So if we want to blame that on Ewers, that's fine. But I just don't think that that is all on Ewers. So that's all I'm saying with that. So as we're in this bye week, I'm hoping that somehow we fix this red zone offense that has been really bad, and somehow we figure out how to go with a running back or go with a guy that is going to be our guy. Because I don't know enough about like this X's and O's and all the different things, but I would like to think that having a running back by committee in college is probably not ideal, and that is what we've been doing. We have running backs. Don't get me wrong. This is no disrespect on the running backs, but every time we kind of start to give a guy the ball to run the ball, something happens and it doesn't work out that way. So I think that in this bye week, I am assuming Texas is going to go close recruits. That's what they're going to do. I know that they will do that. They've shown me they would do that. I have no problem with Sark, the way he closes recruits. He knows how to build a program, so I'm just going to let him have that. But I am focused. I do want us to focus on this offense and this red zone play calling and how we can get this running back situation figured out. The other thing I think is going to be interesting is as Texas comes out of this bye week is I believe this is the toughest part of the schedule, mainly because this is the end of the season. This is the end of the season. This is when you get exhausted. This is when you get more injured, right? Everybody's kind of injured, but this is when those injuries start to linger. This is the back half of the season. We have 4 games that I think are important for 4 different reasons. So we play Florida in Austin. So it's coming off of a bye week. That game isn't too much of a nerve-wracking game for me, although it's SEC, so you never know what can happen. But then the issue for me is we go to Arkansas on the road. And if you know anything about a Texas and Arkansas rivalry, it's an interesting place. It's an interesting thing to be at. I think people at Arkansas say they hate Texas more than they like Arkansas. So that should give you an indication of that game. And so, yes, we have guys on the team that I don't know if they will understand the dynamics of that rivalry, but you better believe that people in Arkansas know that Texas is rolling into town and they know what time it is. And so that game is going to be an emotional game just because of that old rivalry. And I can't think the last time that we've beat Arkansas that I can remember, because it just hasn't happened. So that's one thing. Then we come back home and we play Kentucky. Kentucky's kind of on a little bit of a slide right now. But again, like, you just never know how you're going to come off of playing this game in Arkansas, being away, and then coming back home and how you're going to show up. And so that's a thing for me as well. The other thing is let's be real. We end the season with Texas A&M. Texas A&M is playing some really great football right now. And the determining factor to who could potentially go to the SEC championship game, could be decided at Kyle Field, Texas versus Texas A&M football. First of all, what better thing can you hope for than the team that's hoping to get into the playoffs? They have to play Texas and Texas A&M. Like, what a game. How great is that? And then let's say that it's Georgia that hasn't lost, and it's Georgia that's going to that SEC championship game. So on one end, you have Texas and Texas A&M that have to play each other. Then on the flip side, you have Georgia waiting to see who they get. Like, I don't know who writes these stories, but you have to admit, that's a pretty great story. And so for me, I think the back half of this Texas schedule is going to be interesting to see how we pull this off and to see what happens. When I made my 2 early season prediction, I predicted we probably go 11-1 or 10-2. I also said I wouldn't be surprised if it was a 9-3. I'm gonna be honest with you. If Texas can pull off a 9-3 at worst and an 11-1, like, that's phenomenal. So I'm going to obviously stick with my team. Like, I think we're gonna be fine. We're gonna beat everybody, right? But it's going to be tough, and it's going to take us figuring out this red zone offense, because right now it's not that great. We're going to have to figure out this running back situation, and we're also going to have to figure out this offensive line. I hope this offensive line can figure it out, because I think they're primed to figure it out. It's just going to be on them. And this is so weird. I'm not talking about the defense. As I come into this year, so worried about the defense. And the last thing I just want to say is this, and I'm going to throw this visual up here because I think it matters, and it really speaks to the way this offense is struggling and the things that matter with Texas. This is basically showing you where the other team is able to get the ball and how far they have to drive in order to score touchdowns against us, or in order to score points. The reason why this matters is they're getting this great field position because our offense is not great. And this is where I always tell people there's 3 phases of the game. There's the offense, there's the defense, and special teams. Right now, our special teams is all right. Our defense is all right. Our offense is not. And when your offense is not operating and not functioning right, for a multitude of reasons, right? Quarterback situation sometimes, offensive line sometimes, no running game sometimes, and play calling sometimes. And so when you have that situation, it's very interesting to see how teams are scoring. If you get the ball on the other side of the 50, chances are you're going to score. And so even if it's just a field goal, right? Because you're closer. Just basic football knowledge will tell you if you get the ball on the other side of the 50, the chances of you scoring points is a lot higher versus if you get the ball on the other side of the 50. And this is where Texas has to play complementary football. And as of right now, it's been a little sketchy. And so I hope that they're able to figure it out over this bye week. Like I said before, I believe they'll figure out recruiting. I'm not worried about that, but I am worried about this offense, and I do need them to get focused in. Because the great thing about all of this is all of the goals that Texas had for themselves at the beginning of this year is still in front of them. They can still get to the SEC championship game and win it, and they can still get into the college football playoffs. And so they're right on track to where they're supposed to be. They're close to achieving their goals. There's just some things they need to work on and some things they need to tweak, because there's some moments where it doesn't look that great, but I'm going to chalk that up to they're going to figure that out. But as of right now, as this stands, Texas is right where they're supposed to be. I think 7-1 in the SEC is great. I know that Georgia loss was terrible and I hated to see it, but maybe we will learn something from that. And if Georgia is the team that we're chasing, and if Georgia is the team we want to beat, and if Georgia is the team we want to be, I think we're on the right track. I think we're doing the things that we need to do, and that is what makes me excited about this team. So I will end this video here, and these are my hopes for the bye weeks. This is how Texas can win the bye week, is just really focus on a couple of things that they're not doing right. And listen, I'm not saying I'm this expert and like Texas doesn't know all these things. I'm just here giving you my perspective as a fan. And to be honest with you, I can be super hard on Texas and nobody cares, and I can be super hard on the Steelers and nobody cares. But I'm realizing that when I'm being hard on Colorado, some of you are starting to listen, and some of you are realizing it's not about just being hard on them per se. It's about having expectations for them and having them come and meet my expectations. So Texas at this point has met my expectations. So I will let them have what they're doing right now, but I do need them to step up, and I do need things to be a little tidier, and I do need us to come out of this bye week and show me that this offense can actually move the ball down the field, and that our offensive linemen remember how to block. That would be absolutely amazing. And I'm so tired and I don't want any more penalties. So no more penalties. Anyways, I will end this video here. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all the things. Enjoy football this weekend. As always, hook 'em.